My stepsister announced her pregnancy at my graduation party, stealing all attention. "Sorry to overshadow your little diploma," she whispered to me. 3 months later at her baby shower, I arrived with my new husband, her former fiancé who discovered the baby wasn't his and that we'd always been meant to be together. "Sorry to overshadow your little diploma," Vanessa whispered, her glossy lips barely moving as she hugged me with one arm, the other hand protectively cradling her still flat stomach. The words slithered into my ear while camera flashes exploded around us. My graduation party, the celebration I'd spent weeks planning, instantly transformed into her impromptu baby shower. I stood frozen in my cap and gown, diploma case clutched in white-knuckled fingers, as my father and stepmother rushed to embrace their daughter. My achievement, summa cum laude in biomedical engineering, evaporated like morning mist under the blazing sun of Vanessa's perfectly timed pregnancy announcement. It wasn't the first time she'd stolen my spotlight. It was just the most devastating. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this incredible journey. If you're enjoying these stories of empowerment, consider subscribing. It's completely free and helps us build this amazing community. Let's dive in. Growing up, I'd poured everything into my studies. While other kids played after school, I studied. While teenagers went to parties, I prepared for exams. My entire identity had been crafted around academic excellence. Partly because I loved learning, but mostly because it was the one arena where Vanessa couldn't outshine me. My stepsister excelled at something far more valuable in our family: social performance. She knew exactly when to laugh, what to wear, and how to make people feel important. She'd mastered the art of being the center of attention by age 12. The year her mother married my father and our lives became permanently entangled. The day they moved in, I was setting up a display for my science fair project. A working model of renewable energy that had won regional recognition. My father had promised to help me transport it to the state competition the next morning. "Daddy, look what I made." Vanessa had called from the doorway, holding up a basic watercolor painting of our newly blended family. Her mother had cooed about her artistic talent, and my father, who'd never shown much interest in my academic achievements, had immediately displayed it on the refrigerator. My science project went to the competition in the back of my teacher's station wagon. My father had forgotten. The pattern continued through middle school and high school. My straight A's were acknowledged with perfunctory praise, while Vanessa's B- average was celebrated as if she'd split the atom. My acceptance to a prestigious university warranted a dinner at Olive Garden. Vanessa's acceptance to community college merited a backyard barbecue with 30 guests. "Earth to Emma," a familiar voice pulled me from my bitter memories. I blinked, surprised to find myself still standing in my kitchen, coffee gone cold in my hands as I stared at the graduation party invitation I'd been about to mail. The voice belonged to Noah, Vanessa's fiancé, and once upon a time my childhood best friend. "Sorry," I muttered, setting down my mug. Lost in thought. Noah leaned against my counter, his presence in my apartment unexpected but not unwelcome. He'd stopped by to pick up some family photos Vanessa wanted for their wedding slideshow. Since their engagement 8 months ago, he'd become increasingly integrated into family events, though this was the first time he'd visited my place alone. "Excited about graduation?" he asked, nodding toward the invitation. "As excited as anyone would be about 4 years of brutal work finally ending," I replied, attempting a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Noah studied me with the kind of scrutiny that made me wonder if he could still read my thoughts like he could when we were kids. "Before Vanessa. Before everything changed. Your dad's proud of you, you know," he said softly. "He talks about his brilliant daughter all the time." I snorted. "To who?" "Certainly not to me." Noah shifted uncomfortably. "He mentioned your research project to me last week. The one about targeted drug delivery systems." "That's surprising." I felt a flicker of warmth, quickly extinguished by doubt. Did Vanessa happen to be in the room when he said it? Noah's silence was answer enough. We'd been inseparable as children, Noah and I. Living next door to each other, building forts, trading books, dreaming about traveling the world together someday. Then puberty struck, his family moved across town, and Vanessa ensured our paths rarely crossed except at obligatory family gatherings. By the time I left for college, he was firmly in her orbit. Their engagement announcement last summer had been painful in ways I couldn't fully articulate, even to myself. I like what you've done with the place, Noah said, clearly trying to change the subject as he glanced around my small but meticulously organized apartment. Very you. Is that a compliment or an insult? I asked, only half joking. Definitely a compliment, he replied, his eyes meeting mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip. It's good to see pieces of the real Emma. Sometimes I feel like you disappeared. The statement hung between us, heavy with unspoken history. For a moment I saw a flash of the boy who'd once known me better than anyone else in the world. The real Emma's been here all along, I said quietly. Just buried under textbooks and lab reports. Noah stepped closer, his eyes scanning my face as if searching for something. I miss her. The girl who used to tell me which constellations were which. Who corrected our 5th grade teacher about dinosaurs. That girl grew up, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. She had to. Did she? Or did she just go into hiding? Before I could answer, his phone buzzed. Vanessa's custom ringtone. Noah stepped back, the moment shattered as he checked his screen. I should go, he said, suddenly all business again. Vanessa needs me to pick up her dress from the alterations place. He grabbed the envelope of photos I'd set aside for him. Thanks for these. And hey, I'm really looking forward to your graduation party. It'll be great. As he headed for the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Emma, I see you. The real you. I always have. The door closed behind him, leaving me alone with a cold cup of coffee and the unexpected spark of something I'd thought long extinguished. Something dangerous. What I didn't know then, couldn't have known, was that this brief conversation would be the first domino in a sequence that would ultimately change everything. That in just 3 months, I would walk into Vanessa's baby shower on Noah's arm as his wife, ready to deliver the final act in a drama my stepsister had unwittingly scripted herself. But that afternoon, all I felt was confusion and the faintest flicker of hope that perhaps, after all these years living in Vanessa's shadow, someone still remembered who I really was. 3 weeks after Noah's unexpected visit, my graduation day arrived under perfect blue skies. For once, everything was going according to plan. The ceremony had been mercifully brief, my name announced correctly, and my handshake with the university president firm and confident. I'd even spotted my father standing and applauding as I crossed the stage, a gesture so unexpected that I nearly tripped on my way back to my seat. The party afterward, hosted at my father and stepmother's suburban home, exceeded my modest expectations. The backyard was transformed with white tents, fairy lights, and tasteful blue and silver decorations, my university colors. A banner proclaiming, "Congratulations, Emma," hung across the back porch. For the first time in memory, this celebration was undeniably mine. Speech, someone called as I mingled with guests, diploma holder tucked under my arm. My father approached with a glass of champagne, placing it in my hand before gently guiding me toward the small wooden platform they'd set up near the garden. I'm not really prepared, I started, but Dad squeezed my shoulder. Just speak from the heart, kiddo, he said, using the nickname I hadn't heard in years. Standing before the gathered crowd, professors, classmates, family, friends, and relatives, I felt a rare surge of confidence. Thank you all for coming today, I began, my voice steadier than expected. This degree represents thousands of hours of work, hundreds of late nights, and more coffee than any human should consume in 4 years. Gentle laughter rippled through the audience. My stepmother, Patricia, beamed from beside the cake table. Even my cantankerous grandfather, who rarely left his retirement community, nodded approvingly. I wouldn't be standing here without the support of many people in this garden, I continued, making brief eye contact with my research advisor, my freshman roommate who'd become a dear friend, and finally my father. Dad, thank you for... Oh my goodness, I can't hold it in anymore. The high-pitched exclamation cut through my speech like a knife. All heads turned toward the patio doors where Vanessa stood, radiant in a pale pink sundress that accentuated her slender figure. Noah appeared behind her, his expression unreadable as Vanessa clutched his hand and pulled him forward. Noah and I have an announcement, she trilled, her free hand moving to rest on her stomach in the universal gesture of expectant motherhood. We're pregnant. You're all going to be aunties and uncles and grandparents. The silence lasted precisely 2 seconds before erupting into chaos. Patricia screamed with delight, rushing toward her daughter. My father's face transformed with a joy I'd never seen directed at me. Guests abandoned their positions facing me, converging instead around Vanessa and Noah like metal filings drawn to a magnet. I remained frozen on the platform, champagne glass dangling from suddenly numb fingers, my unfinished speech dying on my lips. No one seemed to notice or care that I was still standing there. No one except Noah, whose eyes briefly met mine over the crowd surrounding him. His expression, was it apology? Discomfort? Regret? Flickered for just a moment before Vanessa pulled his face down for a kiss, effectively breaking our connection. Slowly I stepped down from the platform. The crowd had naturally divided the backyard in two. The vibrant, excited throng clustered around Vanessa near the house, and the empty, abandoned celebration space with its now meaningless decorations celebrating my achievement. I retreated to the far corner of the yard, leaning against the old oak tree that had been my childhood refuge. From this vantage point I observed the scene with detached numbness. My father lifting a toast to his future grandchild. My stepmother already on her phone, presumably sharing the news with everyone in her contact list. Noah standing rigidly beside Vanessa, his smile not quite reaching his eyes as he accepted congratulatory handshakes. She certainly knows how to make an entrance. The voice beside me belonged to Diane Miller, my mother's best friend before her death 15 years ago. One of the few connections to my mother that remained, Diane had stayed part of my life despite the awkwardness that sometimes accompanied her presence at family gatherings. Impeccable timing as always, I replied, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. Diane sipped her wine, her shrewd eyes never leaving Vanessa. You know, in all my years teaching high school drama, I've rarely seen someone who commits so completely to her performances. What do you mean? Just an observation, Diane said carefully. Vanessa reminds me of my star pupil from 2015. Brilliant actress, totally convincing on stage. Off stage. Well, let's just say the audience only saw what she wanted them to see. I studied Vanessa across the yard. She was crying now, delicate tears that didn't disturb her perfect makeup, one hand pressed to her heart, the other still firmly clutching Noah's arm. The timing of each gesture seemed almost choreographed. Noah doesn't look like an ecstatic father-to-be, Diane observed quietly. He was right. While everyone around him bubbled with excitement, Noah stood with the stiff posture of someone enduring rather than celebrating. When Patricia hugged him, his arms remained awkwardly at his sides for several seconds before he remembered to return the embrace. Did you know? I asked Diane. About the baby? About troubles in paradise? Let's just say I ran into Noah at Wilson's pharmacy last week. He was buying antacids and looking like he hadn't slept in days. She patted my arm. Not everyone is as skilled at maintaining facades as your stepsister. Before I could respond, Vanessa detached herself from the crowd and glided toward us, her face a portrait of radiant joy. Noah followed a few steps behind, his expression now carefully neutral. Emma, she cried, embracing me with one arm. Isn't this just the most perfect day? Your graduation and our baby announcement. Her voice was honey-sweet, meant to be overheard by anyone nearby. Then she leaned closer, her lips near my ear, and whispered those cutting words. Sorry to overshadow your little diploma. As she pulled back, her smile never faltered. But in that moment I saw something I'd never noticed before. A calculation behind her eyes, an awareness of exactly what she was doing and the impact it would have. Congratulations, I managed to say, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. What wonderful news. Vanessa turned to float back toward her admirers, pulling Noah along. But as they walked away, I caught Noah glancing back at me, his expression unguarded for just a second. And what I saw there wasn't happiness or pride. It was desperation. 2 weeks after my graduation party disaster, I sought refuge in Brood Awakening, a tiny coffee shop tucked away in a forgotten corner of downtown. It had become my sanctuary during college, a place where nobody knew me as Vanessa's plain stepsister, or measured my worth against hers. The baristas knew my order, extra-large dark roast, no room, and the worn leather armchair in the back corner might as well have had my name engraved on it. I was halfway through reviewing a job application when the bell above the door jingled. I glanced up reflexively, then immediately ducked behind my laptop screen. Noah stood at the counter, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed, looking nothing like the polished architect who typically accompanied Vanessa to family gatherings. Make it a double, he told the barista, his voice carrying across the nearly empty cafe. Actually, triple if that's a thing. I contemplated slipping out the back exit, but before I could gather my things, Noah turned and spotted me. Surprise flickered across his face, followed by something that looked oddly like relief. "Emma," he said, approaching my table. "Mind if I join you?" Hesitantly, I moved my bag from the opposite chair. "Rough morning." "Rough week," he corrected, slumping into the seat. Up close, his exhaustion was even more apparent. Vanessa's morning sickness only seems to happen when she wants attention or sympathy. Miraculously disappears when her friends invite her for mimosa brunch. The bitter edge in his voice caught me off guard. In all the years I'd known him as Vanessa's boyfriend, I'd never heard him speak about her with anything but admiration. "Can pregnant women drink mimosas?" I asked, genuinely confused. Noah's laugh held no humor. "That's exactly what I asked. Apparently questioning her makes me unsupportive and toxic." He rubbed his temples. "Sorry. I shouldn't be dumping this on you." "It's fine," I said, surprising myself by meaning it. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone outside the situation. We fell into conversation more naturally than I would have expected. We discussed my job prospects, his recent architectural project, and reminisced about the tree house he designed for us when we were 12. His first blueprint, drawn on graph paper stolen from his father's office. That initial coincidental meeting turned into a standing Tuesday morning coffee date. Each week, Noah would arrive looking increasingly troubled, and each week he would share another piece of information that chipped away at Vanessa's carefully constructed image. "She told her mother the baby's due in January," he mentioned during our third coffee meeting. "But she told my parents March." When I pointed out the discrepancy, she blamed pregnancy brain. By our fifth meeting, his casual complaints had evolved into serious concerns. "The timeline doesn't add up, Emma," he confided, voice low despite the cafe's ambient noise providing privacy. "According to when she claims we conceived, she should be showing more. The doctor wants to do another ultrasound because the measurements seem off." "Maybe it's just a small baby?" I suggested, trying to be fair despite my growing unease. "Maybe." Noah stared into his coffee. "Or maybe there's another explanation." I didn't ask what he meant. Part of me didn't want to know, didn't want to be pulled further into their relationship drama. But another part, the part that remembered building cardboard rocket ships with the boy across from me, couldn't bear seeing him so tormented. During our sixth meeting, Noah arrived clutching a manila folder. "I found this in Vanessa's desk drawer," he said, sliding it across the table. "I was looking for stamps, but..." He trailed off, gesturing for me to open it. Inside were medical records. Vanessa's name clearly printed at the top of each page. I frowned, uncomfortable with the invasion of privacy. "Noah, I shouldn't be looking at these." "Just the dates, Emma." "Look at the dates." I skimmed the documents, my eyes catching on a gynecological visit from 4 months prior. The notes referenced a discussion about fertility options and a prescription for prenatal vitamins. 4 months ago, Vanessa had been in Cancun with her college friends, a girls-only trip that Noah hadn't been invited to join. "She told me she got pregnant during our weekend in the Poconos," Noah said, his voice hollow. 6 weeks ago." My stomach twisted. This could just be preparation. Maybe she was planning to start trying soon and wanted to be healthy first. Noah pulled out another paper, a lab report. "This is from 3 months ago. HCG levels consistent with early pregnancy. The implication hung between us, impossible to ignore. If Vanessa had been pregnant 3 months ago, Noah couldn't be the father." "I don't understand," I said finally. "Why lie about it? Why not just tell you she was already pregnant?" Noah's laugh was harsh, devoid of joy. "Because she wasn't sure I'd stay. We'd been fighting constantly before that Poconos trip. I was reconsidering the engagement. The pregnancy announcement locked me in." His fingers trembled as he gathered the papers. "She knew exactly what she was doing at your graduation party. It wasn't just about stealing your moment. It was about making a public declaration that would be impossible for me to question without looking like the villain." My mind raced through implications. "Who? Do you know who might be?" "I have suspicions," Noah said grimly. "Her ex, Tyler, has been texting her constantly. She says it's about a joint investment they made before we got engaged, but the messages I've seen are not about money. We sat in silence, the weight of his discovery pressing down on us. Finally, I reached across the table and took his hand. The gesture felt simultaneously foreign and familiar, like returning to a childhood home years after moving away. "What are you going to do?" I asked softly. Noah's eyes met mine, clear and determined despite his obvious pain. "First, I need to confirm my suspicions. Then," he squeezed my hand, "then I need to figure out how to build a life that's authentic, not based on deception. I've spent years living Vanessa's version of my life. I barely recognize myself anymore." In that moment, something shifted between us. A reconnection to the friendship we'd once shared, but with new dimensions neither of us was ready to name. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for being someone I can trust with the truth. For being real in a way Vanessa never was." As we parted that day, I felt simultaneously lighter and burdened, lifted by the rekindling of our connection, yet weighed down by the knowledge of what awaited Noah and by extension my family. The carefully constructed facade was beginning to crack, and none of us could predict what would remain standing when it finally shattered. For a week after Noah showed me Vanessa's medical records, I wrestled with my conscience. Each night, I'd lie awake debating what my role should be in this unfolding drama. Was I helping Noah uncover a painful truth he deserved to know, or was I enabling the destruction of my family's fragile peace? The line between justice and revenge blurred every time I recalled Vanessa's whispered taunt at my graduation party. I'd just arrived home from work when my phone buzzed with a text from Noah. "Can you meet me? Need to talk." Important. We met at a park bench overlooking the river, neutral territory far from coffee shops or family homes. Noah paced back and forth, hands jammed in his pockets. "I confronted her," he said without preamble, his voice rough. "Last night." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Exactly what you'd expect. Denial. Gaslighting." Then when I showed her the paperwork, she switched to tears and accusations. He finally sat beside me, shoulders hunched. "She admitted it, Emma. The baby isn't mine. It's Tyler's." Despite suspecting this truth, hearing it confirmed sent a shock through me. "I'm so sorry, Noah." She begged me not to tell anyone. Said we could raise the baby as mine, that no one would ever know. His laugh held no humor. When I refused, she threatened to tell everyone I cheated on her, that I was abusive. Said she'd make sure I lost my partnership at the firm. "She wouldn't," I whispered, though we both knew she absolutely would. "She's already started," Noah said, showing me his phone. On the screen was a group text to his friends, claiming Noah had been controlling and had abandoned her during her pregnancy. This is just the beginning. The next 24 hours unfolded like a fever dream. Noah stayed at a hotel while Vanessa launched a preemptive campaign, calling family members with her version of events. My father phoned me, demanding to know if I'd been filling Noah's head with lies about Vanessa. When I tried explaining, he hung up on me. By evening, the battle lines were drawn. Most of the family rallied around Vanessa, the supposedly abandoned pregnant woman. Only Diane stood firmly in Noah's corner, and surprisingly so did I. "I need concrete proof, Emma," Noah said when we spoke that night. "Something irrefutable." "What about the medical records?" She claimed they were misdated. That her doctor made a clerical error. I thought for a moment. Her phone. Tyler's messages would be there. "She never lets that thing out of her sight," Noah sighed. "She takes it to the bathroom." The solution came to me suddenly. The cloud backup. "Does she use your laptop?" "Sometimes. When hers is charging." "And you share an Apple account for family sharing, right?" Noah's eyes widened as he caught my meaning. Her messages would sync to the cloud. The next day he forwarded me screenshots. Dozens of messages between Vanessa and Tyler, dating back months before the supposed conception, continuing through the Cancun trip and even after the graduation party announcement. The most damning was Tyler asking when she planned to tell Noah the truth, with her response, "Never." Noah's stable, reliable, the perfect father figure. What he doesn't know won't hurt him. Armed with evidence, Noah confronted Vanessa again, this time at my apartment with me present as a witness. She arrived looking like the picture of maternal virtue in a flowing dress, her hand protectively cradling her stomach. "This intervention is ridiculous," she began, settling onto my couch. "I'm under enough stress without." Noah silently handed her the printed screenshots. I watched her expression shift from confusion to shock to calculated fury. You invaded my privacy, she hissed. This is illegal. I could press charges. Go ahead, Noah replied calmly. Explain to the judge why you were discussing how to trick me into raising another man's child. What followed was the most vicious display of Vanessa I'd ever witnessed. She threatened, pleaded, and manipulated in rapid succession. When nothing worked, she turned on me. You've always been jealous of me, she spat. Always wanting what I have. This is your pathetic attempt to steal my life. No, Vanessa, I said quietly. This is about honesty. Something you've never valued. She stormed out, promising destruction. True to her word, within hours, my phone exploded with messages from family members. My father demanded I apologize to Vanessa. My cousins called me a homewrecker. Only silence from my stepmother, Patricia, which I interpreted as disappointment. Then unexpectedly my doorbell rang. When I opened it, Patricia stood there looking older than I'd ever seen her. May I come in? She asked softly. Warily I let her inside. She perched on the edge of my armchair, hands clasped tightly in her lap. I received some disturbing messages today, she began. About you and Noah conspiring against Vanessa. It's not like that, I started to defend, but she held up her hand. I know, she said simply. I've always known who my daughter is. The admission stunned me into silence. Vanessa has been manipulating people since she was a child, Patricia continued, her voice steady despite the pain in her eyes. I tried so many interventions. Therapy, discipline, heart-to-hearts. Nothing worked. By the time she was a teenager, I realized she simply lacks whatever makes most people empathetic. She looked at me directly. I saw how she treated you all these years. How she deliberately overshadowed your every achievement. I should have intervened more firmly, and for that I'm truly sorry. You believe us about the baby? I asked cautiously. Patricia nodded. I suspected something was off with her timeline. And to be honest, I've never seen Vanessa and Noah truly connect. Not the way you two always did before she came between you. Her support changed everything. With Patricia's help, we gathered the family to present the evidence. While not everyone was immediately convinced, enough doubt was cast that Vanessa's power over the narrative crumbled. Tyler, confronted by Noah, admitted everything, even offering to take a paternity test. In the aftermath, Noah and I found ourselves drawing closer. What began as mutual support evolved into something deeper. We were careful, both aware of how our relationship would appear from the outside. But there was an undeniable rightness to being together, like returning to a path we should have followed years ago. I've wasted so much time living someone else's version of my life, Noah told me one evening as we walked along the riverfront. I don't want to waste any more. When he kissed me for the first time, it felt like the most honest moment of my life. 2 weeks later, in a quiet courthouse ceremony with only Diane and Patricia as witnesses, we became husband and wife. No grand gestures, no elaborate performances, just a simple, authentic commitment between two people who had finally found their way back to each other. Ready to face whatever comes next? Noah asked as we signed the marriage certificate. Looking into his eyes, I knew that whatever storms Vanessa might still unleash, we would weather them together. Absolutely ready. 3 months after my graduation party, almost to the day, Noah and I stood hand in hand outside my father's house. The front yard was decorated with pink and blue balloons, and a banner reading Vanessa's baby shower hung across the porch. Despite everything that had happened, Patricia had insisted on hosting the shower, though her reasons were more complex than simple maternal duty. Are you sure about this? Noah asked, his wedding band catching the afternoon sunlight as he squeezed my hand. I took a deep breath. Absolutely sure. We hadn't planned to make a dramatic entrance at Vanessa's baby shower. In fact, we hadn't planned to attend at all. Our quiet courthouse wedding 2 weeks earlier had been followed by an impromptu honeymoon to a lakeside cabin, a deliberate retreat from the storm we knew awaited us upon our return. But Patricia's call yesterday had changed everything. Vanessa's telling everyone Noah abandoned her because of the pregnancy complications, she'd explained, her voice strained. She's claiming you seduced him during his moment of weakness. The story gets more elaborate with each telling. Patricia's sigh had carried the weight of years dealing with her daughter's manipulations. It's time to end this cycle, Emma. For all our sakes. So here we stood, about to walk into a gathering where most attendees believed we were the villains of the story. Noah straightened his shoulders. Let's do this. The collective gasp as we entered the living room was almost comical. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Punch cups froze halfway to lips. In the center of it all sat Vanessa on a decorated chair, an impressive baby bump protruding beneath her pastel maternity dress, opening a gift box. Her eyes widened at our appearance, then narrowed dangerously. "What are you doing here?" she hissed loud enough for everyone to hear. Patricia stepped forward from where she'd been arranging food. "I invited them, Vanessa. This has gone far enough." "You invited them?" Vanessa's voice rose incredulously. "After what they did to me. After he abandoned me and his child." Noah's grip on my hand tightened, but his voice remained calm. "I can't abandon a child that isn't mine, Vanessa." The room erupted in whispers. My father stepped forward, face flushed with anger. "Now listen here." "Dad," I interrupted, finding confidence I never knew I possessed. "There's documented proof. Medical records showing Vanessa was already pregnant before the weekend she claims she conceived with Noah. Text messages between her and the actual father. DNA test results." I paused, letting the information sink in. "We've tried handling this privately, but Vanessa keeps spreading lies." Vanessa stood up, one hand protectively on her stomach. "These are outrageous accusations. I have a medical condition that made the dates appear earlier. My doctor can confirm." "Your doctor already confirmed the opposite," Patricia interjected quietly. "I spoke with Dr. Levine myself." The look of betrayal Vanessa shot her mother would have melted steel. "Why?" asked my Aunt Margaret, who had always adored Vanessa. "Why lie about something so important?" Vanessa's composure began to crack. "You don't understand. Noah was going to leave me. You needed to trap me," Noah finished for her. "But it wasn't just about the baby, was it, Vanessa? Tell them about the credit cards." This was news even to me. I glanced at Noah questioningly. Vanessa's face drained of color as Patricia cleared her throat. "I found numerous credit card statements in Noah's name, accounts he never opened, with over $50,000 in charges. Designer clothes, spa treatments, weekend getaways with." She trailed off meaningfully. "Identity theft," Noah explained to the stunned room. "Along with reproductive coercion. That's why we're here today, not for revenge but to stop the deceptions before they hurt more people." Vanessa's carefully constructed facade finally shattered completely. "You think you're so perfect, don't you?" she shrieked, pointing at me. "Little Miss Summa Cum Laude with your pathetic diploma and your high-minded principles. You've always been jealous of me. Always wanted what was mine." "That's not true, Vanessa," I said softly. "I only ever wanted to be valued for who I actually am." The doorbell rang, cutting through the tension. Patricia moved to answer it, returning moments later with an unexpected guest. Tyler Davidson, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend and, as we now knew, the father of her baby. "Sorry I'm late," he said awkwardly, looking around the room. I got your text, Vanessa." "I didn't text you," Vanessa snapped, panic edging into her voice. Tyler looked confused. "Yes, you did. You said you were finally telling everyone the truth and wanted me here for support." He pulled out his phone, showing a text that had indeed come from Vanessa's number. All eyes turned to Patricia, who held up Vanessa's phone. "I sent it," she admitted. It was time for complete honesty. What followed was both painful and necessary. Tyler, equally victimized by Vanessa's manipulations, revealed how she had continued their relationship in secret while engaged to Noah, how she had told him the baby was Noah's when she first discovered her pregnancy, then reversed course when Noah began pulling away. One by one, attendees began to leave, murmuring awkward goodbyes and avoiding eye contact. Eventually, only the central players remained. Vanessa now collapsed on the couch, Tyler sitting uncomfortably across from her, Patricia and my father standing together near the fireplace, and Noah and me by the doorway. "What happens now?" my father finally asked, his voice small and defeated. "Now," Patricia said firmly, "we help Vanessa get the support she needs. Therapy. Accountability. Real consequences for her actions." "And the baby?" Tyler asked. "We do right by this child," Noah said. "Whatever our personal feelings, an innocent baby shouldn't suffer for any of this." In that moment, watching these broken relationships begin the long process toward honesty, I realized something profound. The revenge I had imagined would feel sweet, walking into Vanessa's shower with Noah as my husband, had instead become something else entirely. Not an act of spite but of truth-telling. Not an ending but a beginning. 6 months later, Noah and I hosted a small dinner party in our new apartment. Patricia was there, as was my father, tentatively rebuilding his relationship with me. Diane came too, bringing her famous apple pie. And surprisingly, so did Vanessa, noticeably humbled by new motherhood and the court-mandated therapy she was undergoing as part of her identity theft plea agreement. Her son, barely 2 months old, slept peacefully in a portable bassinet while Tyler, now taking his co-parenting responsibilities seriously, occasionally checked on him. "He has your eyes," I told Vanessa during a quiet moment in the kitchen. She studied me for a long moment. "I'm trying, Emma. To be better. It doesn't come naturally to me, but I'm trying." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a step toward something neither of us had experienced before. An authentic relationship built on truth rather than competition. As Noah slipped his arm around my waist later that evening, he whispered, "Who would have thought your graduation party would lead to all this?" I leaned against him, watching my complicated, imperfect family attempting to build something new from the ashes of so many facades. "Sometimes," I replied, "the truth is the best revenge of all."